You know, when we talk about inclusion, most companies think of it as a cultural thing, right? An HR conversation. And when we talk about climate, that gets siloed over in the environmental department. But what if that's completely the wrong way to look at it? Today, we're going to see how inclusive leadership isn't just some social nice-to-have. It's a hardcore innovation capability. And in the kind of resource-strapped, volatile world we're living in now, that capability is what's going to separate the companies that thrive from those that don't.
This quote right here, it changes everything. The moment you stop thinking about climate as a bunch of weather problems and start seeing it for what it is, a resource misallocation problem, the whole strategic game flips. All of a sudden, this isn't just about sustainability reports. This is a boardroom-level conversation about the fundamental efficiency of your business.
So, what does a systems efficiency crisis actually look like in the real world? Well, it looks like this number, 12%. Right now, in the European Union, only 12% of the materials we use come from recycled sources. Let that sink in. That means almost 90% of everything we pull out of the ground becomes waste. It becomes pollution. It's just lost. That's not an environmental talking point. That is a massive, gaping hole in our economic model.
See, the real issue here isn't just that the planet is getting warmer. The problem is the design of the system itself. For centuries, we've been running on this linear model. We take resources, we make stuff, and then we throw it away. But we're trying to run that one-way street model on a planet that is very much a closed system. And when you do that, well, the system starts to break down. You get biodiversity loss, you get water stress, all things that create massive instability for our economies.
And here's the absolute heart of the problem. Our entire modern economy was built on one huge assumption, that the environment was stable, predictable, and basically infinite. But that assumption, it's broken. It no longer holds true. And we're seeing the fallout every single day with shaky supply chains, skyrocketing insurance premiums, and commodity prices that are all over the map. The old playbook we've all been using, it's obsolete.
Okay, so if the problem is this clear, and the economic risks are so incredibly high, why are so many smart companies finding it so hard to change? If the business case is a slam dunk, what's really holding us back? Well, the answer might surprise you. It has everything to do with how we pick our leaders. This chart shows a huge disconnect. Traditionally, we look for leaders who send certain signals. You know, they're charismatic, they feel familiar to us, they're available. These are all qualities that are great for keeping things stable. But the transformation we need right now, that demands a totally different skill set. People who are systems thinkers, people who aren't afraid of constructive dissent, people who are laser-focused on long-term resilience. We're basically promoting people for a world that doesn't exist anymore.
And this is the point I really want you to get. This is not a talent shortage. The brilliant people who can solve these complex problems, they are already in our organizations. The issue is that the systems we use to find and promote talent are completely outdated. They're designed to filter for conformity, which creates this massive strategic blind spot. You end up with what's called cognitive lock-in. Basically, a room full of people who all think alike, and who all miss the exact same threats and opportunities.
So, that brings us to the solution. And it starts by thinking about inclusion in a brand new way. Forget about it being an HR program or just a moral issue for a second. We need to start treating it as a core strategic capability. It's about how you literally expand your company's ability to see the problems and, more importantly, the solutions that are totally invisible when you're sitting in the corner office.
And to do that, we have to redefine diversity. Let's move past the demographic checkboxes for a minute and think about it strategically. Let's call it variance in problem exposure. It's a simple idea. Innovation almost always comes from constraint, and since things like resource scarcity and system failures aren't spread out evenly in the world, the insights on how to innovate aren't spread out evenly either.
Let me give you a quick example. There's an entrepreneur in Kenya who grew up dealing with extreme water scarcity. So when she starts a business, she doesn't just build another water bottling plant. No way. She develops systems that can literally pull clean drinking water right out of the air. Her lived experience with that constraint became a breakthrough innovation.
Or think about Microsoft. When they designed the Xbox Adaptive Controller for gamers with limited mobility, it wasn't just a charity project, it was a brilliant business move. By designing for that specific constraint, they didn't just help a community, they opened up a whole new market, generated new revenue, and made their entire brand stronger.
So the takeaway here is actually pretty simple, but it's incredibly powerful. The people who have the clearest insights into innovation are often the ones who feel the failures of a system first and most intensely. This means the very people our old leadership models tend to screen out are the ones holding the keys to our future.
Okay, so this all sounds good in theory, right? But how do we actually do this? How do you build an organization that can tap into all this potential? Well, you need a new blueprint. You need to build an adaptive architecture, a practical framework to make your company truly resilient.
This is it, the adaptive value architecture. It's got 5 key parts. You need signal diversity to spot those weak risks before they become huge problems. You need cognitive friction. That's healthy, structured debate to make better decisions. You need circular intelligence to turn waste into value. You need resource-conscious design to bake efficiency into everything you do. And finally, you need governance alignment, making sure you actually reward people for thinking long-term, not just for hitting next quarter's numbers. When you get these pieces working together, inclusion stops being a side project and becomes the operating system for your entire transformation.
So, let's wrap up with this. The shift to a more sustainable, circular economy. It's not a matter of if anymore. It's a strategic inevitability. It's being driven by hard physics and cold market realities. The companies that win in the next decade won't just be the ones that are good at compliance. They'll be the ones that are deeply adaptive. So the only real question you have to ask yourself is my company's leadership architecture built for the world we used to live in, or is it ready for the one that's coming?